Norm Macdonald is that's a great one right there.
Yeah, Norm was quite a guy. He was so unique. He was so peculiar too. Norm was very needy in a way, and I'm not speaking out of. I mean, everybody knew that he was needy. He always needed a handler.
Yes,
because he just, I don't know if he didn't know how to do things or he just didn't feel like doing it. Like go on tour with him, he couldn't find his passport, he couldn't find his shoes, he couldn't find this and that.
Are you serious?
I call up Norm. I said, Norm, do you want to go to Palm Springs with me? It's a 3-day Jim McClain course. Yeah. So I pick him up. He rides out there with his feet out the window all the way, listening to Johnny Cash. Remember that? Yeah. And we get out there, and the next morning I call him to wake him up to go. He's sound asleep. I got to call him like 3 times and knock on his door. And then he gets up and he goes, I can't find my shoes. He's like being a little kid.
Sounds like every day getting him to this podcast.
He didn't drive. He didn't have no driver's license. You had to like point him in the right direction where to go. And this was without doing drugs or anything. And he loved to gamble. And again, I'm not speaking out of school on that one either. He loved to gamble. And I learned not to loan Norm money because he wouldn't pay it back. And we were in Vegas once, and he asked to borrow $500. So I gave him the $500 thinking he'd pay it back. And he went off to gamble. He came back the next morning. I saw him for breakfast. I said, Norm, you got the $500? How'd you do last night? He goes, oh, you'll get it. You'll get it. The next day, Norm, don't forget the $500. You'll get it. And then the third day, I go, Norm, you got the $500? You keep putting me off. But, I mean, this disrespectful not paying me back. He goes, what are you complaining about? You only lost $500. I lost $5,000. Good Lord.
I remember him when he hosted the ESPYs. That's where I met him.
Yeah.
When he hosted the ESPYs, and that was off the charts. I mean, his famous joke about the Heisman Trophy.
What was it?
The joke was about the Heisman Trophy that
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson, right?
He's like, Charles Woodson is here.
And there's Charles Woodson. How about that? Huh? What a season he had. Great, man. He became the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, Charles. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case, all bets are off.
That must have been a great night.
Yeah.
People would say how brave and courageous Norm's comedy was, but I just call it poor judgment.
Yeah. They asked me to host this thing for Norm Macdonald, and a bunch of people spoke. And everyone was saying really great stuff, and a lot of people were funny. But, man, Kevin Nealon had the greatest line, because a lot of us were talking about how brave Norm was, and he really was. He was fearless as a comedian. Yeah. And then Kevin Nealon gets up and he says, he's saying very funny things, and he just says, a lot of people up here are talking about how Norm Macdonald was brave in his comedy. I think of it more as a lack of judgment.
Robert said they got banned from a Biloxi casino once.
Oh, because
and
of Norm?
I thought because Norm was counting cards or something. He said no, because he totally torched the room of all the whales. Like, he made fun of them in a way that was like he didn't read the room. And he absolutely did that poor judgment thing, and that's why they got banned from a Biloxi casino.
Even on his memorial, 10 people walked out. You ever follow him on Twitter, his golf commentary?
Oh, my God.
It was so great.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, he did it just like an announcer.
It was just great. Norm.
Tiger dancing on the green with...
He was just the all-time best, man. No question about it. I do remember him jumping out of like a stage door at Radio City Music Hall when, we were all getting ready for the night, and he was asking about a score of a game. Like, he just thought like I would be like his own personal sports phone. Like, hey, who's winning that game? And
come to think of it, I got addicted to you. Oh, no, no, no. And come to think of it, I need somebody like you. Oh, no, no, no. I need someone like you.
Version of Canada, but one of your other counterparts who's Canadian that you didn't mention there, Norm Macdonald, I can't see Norm having the same kind of sentimental attachment to Canada, or did that come up?
No, I don't hear him talking that much about Canada. I don't know if he remembers that he's from Canada.
He does occasionally. He seems very proud. He and I correspond sometimes, and I think it's mostly well, I'm a fan of his and he knows it, but I think it's because I'm Canadian as well. I think he's got pride for it, but I mean, he's an enigma to so many of us. You've been on his show. I haven't gone through the entire archive. Have you gone hiking with Norm yet?
Well, funny you should ask. You're right. Norm is an enigma, and he's a friend, and I do like him. And we've toured together before. But, yeah, we were out in the Grand Cayman Islands about 2 months ago doing the Kaboo Festival out there. And I said, Norm, why don't we do a hike? Because I've been trying to get him, and he's been saying, yeah, he'd do one. And so he says, yeah, let's do one. I said, we'll do it on the beach. So we were all set to do it, and I go, I do the intro on the beach, before he gets there, and the outro and all that stuff. And then I go take him out to lunch, and then we finish lunch. He goes, I got to get my hat. And he goes back to his room, and I'm waiting for him at the elevator, and he texts me saying, I'm watching the golf tournament right now, Tigers playing. And I said, okay. And then 10 minutes later, he texts me, he goes, I can't go, I got diarrhea from that sandwich you bought me. So I never got to hike with him.
Oh, man. I have a similar sort of story. I mentioned we exchanged messages, and I asked him to be on the show. I've asked him a few times, and he always says, certainly. He'll direct message me back, certainly. And I'll say, okay, when? Give me a day and time, and then nothing. And then he'll write me something about something else. He doesn't. This is a thing with Norm, right? He can't commit to meeting with people, it seems.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't really know, but he's a funny guy, of course. He's very entertaining, and he is kind of quirky, and he's an enigma, and that's part of the thing that makes him so, I guess, endearing and interesting and entertaining.